Good afternoon, Caitlin Kirby on behalf of people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Janat Hamoud appearing with Mr. Abu Hashim, was present by Zoom. Mr. Abu Hashim, can you state your name for the record, please?
Sure, Ahmed Abu Hashim.
And what are we doing today? Are we proceeding with exam?
That's my understanding, yes.
All right, very good. All right, you may call your first witness.
And the people would call Fatma Garbia.
Okay. Hello, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. If you could please raise your right hand.
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. State your name for the record, please.
Fatma Zahra Garbi.
All right. Thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you. Ms. Garbia, do you recall the time period between October 11th, 2019? Your Honor, I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback. Can you hear me, Ms. Garbia?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'll restate my question. Do you recall the time period between October 11th, 2019 and October 25th, 2019?
I remember this time, like not a specific timeline, but I remember generally this timeline. Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me during that time where you were living?
I was living in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Do you need the exact address?
No, Ann Arbor, Michigan is okay.
Yes.
And do you know an Ahmed Abu Hashim?
Yes, I do.
And how do you know him?
I know him back from our college when we were doing our master's degree in the American University in Cairo. That was back in Egypt.
And I don't know how you have your screen set up right now, but do you see a gallery view with numerous squares, or you just see me speaking to you?
I see everyone.
Okay. And so do you see Mr. Abu Hashim on the Zoom call currently?
I do see him, yes.
Okay. And can you identify something that he is wearing for me, please?
He's wearing a shirt, like it's a purple shirt with white threads.
Okay. And can the record please reflect that this witness has identified Mr. Abu Hashim as defendant, please?
Without objection, record shall so reflect.
And during the time period that I asked you about earlier in 2019, did you have contact with Mr. Abu Hashim?
I did.
And why was that?
When we were back in college, we were like a huge group of friends back in our college. And when Ahmed came to the US before I came, and we communicated for a little bit. And then when I went there, that was a very good chance for us like to catch up and to communicate. Ahmed offered that he will come and visit me, and that was even before the October times, but that was the initiation of our meetings, or the first times we met. He was in Indiana and I was in Ann Arbor, and we were meeting as friends.
And was there any point where you no longer wanted to have contact with the defendant?
Yes, there was.
And when was that?
That was when I started my PhD. That was after September 2019. And then Ahmed started to be a little bit pushing. And so basically Ahmed like proposed to me, and I was not ready to have a relationship. And I communicated this to him at the beginning, but then he started like his call levels and his calls and messages and everything like this starts to really escalate. Like he would call a lot and text a lot. And at a certain point, I asked him that if we could stop like this kind of communication, especially it was the beginning of my PhD. And
so I'm going to stop you for one moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so did you ask the defendant to stop contacting you?
I did.
And you were saying that he was sending you calling you and sending you emails. Is that correct?
Yes, he did.
And what was the nature of these phone calls and these emails?
So what do you mean the nature? Like, why would he call me?
Yeah. What was he saying on the calls?
Okay, so it started all the way from we were checking on each other. We would discuss many things related to our staying, what we're going through, and stuff like that.
I'm going to stop you really quickly. After you told him that, when you told him you'd no longer wanted to communicate
Oh,
with
I see.
can you tell me why you said that? What was the nature of those phone calls and emails?
Yes, because at that time I didn't really want to have any further communication with him, but then he would call and he would try to explain himself and why he wanted to be with me or why he keeps calling me. And it became so much to me to handle that I really asked him several times to stop contacting me. So he wasn't like threatening me or anything, but that communication never stopped. No matter how many times I would ask him or beg him to stop, like there was nothing threatening in there, but they were too much for me to handle. And I became a little bit concerned by the fact that like he wouldn't really like comply to my wish to stop the communication. I think I tried to block him, and then I tried on several levels before things escalate. Before I called the police for the first time, I tried on several levels to make him stop, but he would just try to keep pushing and okay, I'll just explain this to you. I want you to get my point of view. And he was like so eager for me to listen at a point where I was not willing to.
Okay. And how were these phone calls and emails making you feel after you told him numerous times to stop?
That when I started to get concerning, Ahmed is a very kind person, but at that time that was my first time in my life to travel on my own. So the fact that he was extremely insisting and he never wanted to stop, I sent him a picture, screenshot from a website, and it was talking about stalking, how the stalking make the stalked person feel, and what stalking is consist of. So I personally was new to this concept of stalking, but I sent him this screenshot and was like, this is how I feel, and this is how I feel, and this is how I feel, highlighting things in this webpage. And still,
so Miss Garbia, can you tell the court how it made you feel? Like, what were the things that you outlined?
I was very scared, and I started to feel chased. And honestly, what that feelings of being chased or not able to say a no or being comfortable like with making my own choice, that haunted me for about 10 months or 6 to 10 months afterwards. And even after Ahmed went to Egypt, I had this paranoia that someone is watching me or someone is always there. I'm not sure if it's related just to what Ahmed was doing, but the fact that I had to take several measures to make him stop contacting me, I think it affected me in other forms as well.
When you say that you took several measures for him to stop contacting you, can you tell the court what those measures were?
It started all the way with calling him. We were talking a lot over the phone, and even sometimes after I asked him to stop contacting me, I still didn't really want things to be cut between us in a bad way. After all, we knew each other for some years, and I respected that. So even sometimes I remember for a few times we were having a phone call, and then we would talk about other things in life, and it was I was trying to ease him, like it's okay, it's all good, but I need for this time to really stop all this kind of communications. Sometimes
so Miss Garbia, so besides telling him and messaging him that you wanted him to stop, did you do anything else to make sure that he stopped contacting you?
Yes, I did. Actually, one of the things I did, it was I told him clearly in a message that if you do not stop contacting me, I'll be calling the cops on you. And I told him this like very specifically. And then like kind of a week after, he I do not remember the exact timeline, but he did it again. And this time he started to send me a lot of emails, like it was very lengthy emails. And also I received a couple of messages that was not coming from his phone number. I wasn't sure about them. So that's when I called the cops. And I remember the first person I contacted was Officer Coates. I do not remember his first name, but he was Officer Coates. And I believe he was related to Michigan University police, something like this. And then from there, I'm sorry. I actually started with a security.
Miss Garbia, so after you made a police report, did you also attempt to get a personal protection order?
I did.
And did you receive a personal protection order?
I did.
And during the time you got a personal protection order, did the defendant still contact you?
He did. And it was via emails, I believe, if I correctly remember.
No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Examination.
Thank you. Ms. Garbia, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for asking.
Good. My name is Janelle Hamoud. I represent Mr. Abu Hashim. I'm going to be asking you some questions to follow up on what you just told the court, okay? Now you said that the two of you had a relationship that began in Egypt when you were doing your master's program.
Friendship, not a relationship. Yes.
Okay, so you were never in a dating relationship?
Back at that time, never. We never did.
Okay, at some point, did you become more romantically involved or pursued towards a dating relationship?
With Ahmed, just for a few weeks, and that was recently in 2022.
In 2022, you were in a dating relationship with him?
Yes, we tried to fix things. We were talking, and we thought confronting each other would be the best way to do this. And then we felt romantically to each other, and then that was when we tried to have a relationship together. We did not. It didn't. I think it lasted for maybe Ahmed can remember, but I think maybe 3-4 weeks. And then that was when I was back in Egypt, and after I came to the US. And I really had my space and my time on my own. And then I thought about it furthermore. And I thought like it really, we cannot work this out. But we kept a very respectful connection afterwards.
Okay. In 2019, at any point, were you in it? Would you consider in a dating relationship?
I would not say it was dating at all. He proposed. I was nice about him and nice about it, but I didn't wish to really get into a relationship. And I think I made this clear as well.
Okay, so just being friends and proposing, is that uncommon practice in Islamic culture, or is that a traditional, is that something that's not uncommon?
Well, if you're talking Islamic culture, that's totally different from, like, there's Islamic teaching and there is Egyptian culture, and this is our practice. So we're talking about 3 different aspects. If you're talking about Islamic aspect, it's totally not allowed. If you're talking about our practice, like how much can we really stick to these teachings, we try to. Egyptian culture, that totally differs from one family to another family. You can never generalize culture.
Was it unusual to you that he proposed to you?
It was not unusual for him to propose to me.
Okay. Okay, and so
I was maybe if I can add something, I was surprised that he proposed to me, specifically because he proposed to me on the night where after I came from Egypt and I was wearing an engagement ring. And when he asked me, and then he asked me, oh, did you get engaged? Because at that time I just arrived from Egypt, and I was joking about it. I would say, yes, see. And then I told him, no, I didn't get engaged, but I'm wearing this ring because I'm not ready to get into any relationship with the beginning of my PhD. That same night he proposed.
okay, but it wasn't threatening to you that he proposed, right?
It was very strange for me that he would propose, especially after I made it very clear to him, I'm not interested in any kind of relationship. And I know we were kind of close friends, but I never thought he would do something like this.
Okay. But you weren't scared of him when he proposed to you, I'm saying.
He first proposed, absolutely not, no.
Now, you said you made it clear to him that you weren't interested in pursuing a romantic relationship with him, correct?
That's true.
But you were okay with having a friendship with him?
That was before he proposes, yes.
After he proposed to you?
I didn't take it so seriously because next day I remember he called me and he was like, oh, I think next day or a few days after, he was like, oh, it's okay, forget about it. I was just thinking about it. I need to think more about this. So I did not take it very seriously, especially that I know Ahmed has or had, I would want to say had at that time. And before that time, from all the years I knew him in AUC, he's very impulsive. Or I want to say he was very impulsive, because I also get to know Ahmed much better the past 2 years, but he was very impulsive and he would take rushed decisions. And it was a common knowledge about Ahmed that he would do this kind of things.
Okay. So my question though was, even though you didn't want him to pursue a dating relationship with you, were you okay after the proposal of him pursuing a friendship with you? So you can answer yes or no.
With the way he did it, it was absolutely no.
No, you were not okay with him pursuing a friendship with you.
Not with the way he was doing. Like, he pushed so hard, not after I asked him several times to stop. No.
Okay.
Maybe at the beginning, if he approached it differently, but not this way.
Okay. You said that you would talk to him. He would call you. Sometimes you'd be talking on the phone for a long time. What time frame was that, if you can recall?
Every time me and Ahmed talks, we really spend a long time on the phone. We have common things, and that's why I think we still able to keep a friendship until now. I mean, after everything happened, like even sometimes actually if I take an Uber late at night, I would send him like the screenshot for like Uber, you know. So Ahmed is not someone who resembled threat for me at the beginning, but it reached a point where I was not ready to have anything to do with him.
Okay, so you're talking about now you would send him a screenshot if you were taking an Uber?
No, that was even at the beginning.
At the beginning, okay. And it wasn't until after you told him not to contact you that you stopped doing things like that?
There's just something I want to clarify. When I asked him to stop contacting me, it didn't happen overnight. We spent almost a month in this process of stop contacting me, through which sometimes I would contact him, you know, but still, like, as long as I felt like he was acting just normal or taking it or accepting the fact that I don't want this constant communication, that would have been fine with me. But he was like, Ahmed had a problem, and for me, that was a disastrous thing for me. I couldn't handle. He wouldn't take a no. He would never accept a no. And he would take it as a challenge and would try his best to prove his point of view, which is not harmful point of view, but he would push with all means possible to get to you, to make you listen to him, you know, and listen to what he has to say. I did not have the capacity to do this.
Okay, Ms. Garbia, I'm just going to try to narrow down my questions so you could answer yes or no, okay? Is it fair to say you did not want to talk to Ahmed about anything that involved a romantic relationship between the two of you?
Could you repeat the question again?
Is it fair to say you did not want to talk to Ahmed about anything that involved a romantic relationship between the two of you?
Maybe at the beginning, I was a little, well, again, I cannot say. It really all depended on the way he initiated all of this. At the first time when he said that, I remember clearly at that night, I did not say a no, because that was extremely strange for me. I just told you that I'm not open for any relationship. And then he proposed. Given that we knew each other, I didn't want to hurt him. And then I was like, okay, well, let me think about it. And I remember even where I was living and where we were having this conversation, it was in the parking lot right in front of the house where I used to live in Island Drive. And it was, I think, a blue Toyota car that he has rented that had the colors inside, you know. I remember clearly this conversation because it was so strange for me. And yet I didn't want to hurt him or hurt his feeling. I did not reject that first time he asked me this. Actually, as a matter of fact, I told my mom at that time, and she was like, okay, I know you don't want any relationship, but think about it. I was like, okay, if I think about it, I'm afraid I'm going to lose him. And she was like, well, you know, you do what you feel is right. So during the time, maybe a couple of weeks, I reached a conclusion where, or maybe a month, exactly by beginning or first week of September, I knew like I didn't want a relationship.
Okay. So then Is it fair to say that even after that point, you still initiated contact with him for some of the conversations that happened after September?
Oh, after September, actually, it's where, yeah, of course, we had communication. And that was when I reported him the first time with the police. And then I told him that the police told me if there's any communication, I have to report it, or he could know on his own, and I can never risk myself. And after this, he had, that was after the police called him, and then the police told me to never have any communication with him. He texted me on Instagram. He texted me on Instagram, and that at that time, I think that was before the personal protection order. He texted me kind of at night, and then I do not know what he was saying. And then I told him, Ahmed, I'm sorry, but this is something like they will have to know about, because I'm not going to risk myself, something like this.
You're
And
not gonna risk yourself, like you didn't want to not comply with what the police told you?
yes, that I have to inform him. Yes.
Okay. When he texted you on Instagram, did you feel threatened for your safety?
I started to feel the threat at that time. I'm not sure about my safety. What do you mean by that? Because that's a very like psychological safety, physical safety. But that was extremely alarming for me that a police would call him and he wouldn't take this seriously, because after all, we are internationals here in the US, and these things, nobody takes them lightly. So that when he did this, it was when I really started to be very, very concerned.
Okay. You testified that you felt Ahmed is a very kind person, right?
Yes.
Have you always felt that?
Oh, he's absolutely always like that, but that does not have anything to do with his impulsiveness. He can be kind, and also he can be very impulsive and do things that concern me.
Is it fair to say that he's never threatened your physical safety?
He has never threatened my physical safety. That is so true. Although I developed a paranoia that he would somehow, after he went to Egypt, I think Ahmed had a lot of rage and anger through everything he did to me online, that I had a paranoia for about 6 to 8 months where I felt like he might do anything else. If he was able to deform me and deform my reputation online and everywhere like this, he could do anything. He never did something that hurts me physically. He never did. Actually, I would say Ahmed was kind of protective. I think the only problem with Ahmed was his behavior. I know Ahmed right now for over 5 years, and I think his behavior that honestly I do not see the past couple of years was his huge problem. And I was extremely concerned. If you want to say for my safety, then yes, because one of the things I was getting treated for.
I want you to say what you felt at the time.
At the time is even worse than what I feel now, because what I feel now is kind of objective, but back then I would be so scared to even pass through a window. I would bend down the window because I wasn't sure what could he do. Could he just call someone to, I don't know, to do something to me, so I was extremely scared, because for me, police, I don't know, maybe the way I was raised up, police is extremely dangerous thing. We do not get in contact with police our entire life. We do not have anything to do with police. So the fact that the police called him and he didn't comply, that was, for me, maybe I was exaggerating in my feelings. But for me, if he does not listen to the police, he will not listen to anyone, So that was kind of, but it's not really something he did to threaten me physically at all. Never. Yeah.
And when you felt worried about him, was he back in Egypt?
That was before he was back in Egypt.
So he wasn't back in Egypt at what time frame specifically did you feel
Since I called the police. And one thing I think it just came
that specifically. I know you know the story, but I want you to tell the court exactly the date range for that.
So,
you can remember.
Yeah, I think also it was after the first time. I'm not sure if it was before or after the first time I talked with with Detective Margie. But But I remember two things right now. One of them, I think he wanted to come to Ann Arbor to see me. And I told him, Ahmed, please don't come because I don't want to see you, you know. He respected my decision for one day, but then the next day he was like, I gave him a word that I see you next day if you do not come and see me. But still he came. And the fact that he came to Ann Arbor was a little bit of a pressure, but I still promised him if he didn't push so hard to see me that day, I'll see him the next day. So I saw him the next day. So I'm not quite sure if you could repeat your question because I'm not so good with dates right now. I can remember like when things happened, you know, but the specific dates is very hard for me to tell. I don't want to give any incorrect information.
Did the police tell you to get a personal protection order?
No, I'm not sure if they give me an options or they give me ideas for what I can do. But Officer Coates, what he said at that time, he said, I'll make sure that he will not talk to you again. And if he ever does communicate to you with any way, in any platform, you'll have to let me know. And
Okay.
that's why I was like, I'm never risking this. If when he talked to me, I'm sorry, he has to know, you know. And I honestly thought that he would have his own ways to know because next day he pulled me out of a gathering party with all the labs, everyone from all work. He pulled me in front of everyone, Officer Coates, you know. He was like, we need to talk.
Did you think you would get in trouble if you didn't report that you had contact with?
Absolutely.
I've-
Yes, we do not joke with police. Police is police, you know. We don't play with that.
Okay. Is this a true statement? You, at that time, when all of this was happening, you would talk to Ahmed about other things, and that was okay, but you would not want to talk to him about being together as a couple.
A little bit afterwards, yes, I remember. I'm not sure when exactly, but yes, as long as, because he was normal in every other way. That's why we had the friendship, first of all. But the relationship, he would like just, I don't know, transform into someone else, you know? He would get this obsession. But other than that, we were just fine, you know? And that's what made us friends in the first place. And I think what can keep us in a good terms till now. But
Okay.
yes, Ahmed, when there's something he's very obsessed with, he used to be very, I would say, a little controlling.
Okay.
He wouldn't hurt you, but he would want you to really be there and to really listen. And he wouldn't let you go until you do it, you know. And then you're free to go.
Okay. I have nothing additional at this time. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. I call your next witness.
Now, people would call Detective Margie Pillsbury.
Hello, Detective. You can please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
All right, please state your name for the record.
Margie Pillsbury, Pillsbury.
All right, thank you. You may inquire.
Thank you. Detective Pillsbury, did you work on a case including Mr. Abu Hashim and Ms. Garbia?
Yes, I did.
And what was your role in that case?
I was the assigned detective to follow up on the report that Officer Coates had taken in September of 2019.
And were you aware if there was a PPO in this matter between the two parties?
Yes, there was a PPO issued on September 25th, 2019.
And do you know if that was served to the defendant?
Yes, it was. I served it myself on October 9th, 2019 in Indianapolis at the university he was attending.
And did you serve that in person or how did you serve it?
I served it in person.
And did he confirm or acknowledge that he received it from you?
Yes.
And did you explain to him what that meant?
Yes, I read the entire PPO to him, answered his questions, and gave him a copy.
And at that time that you served him, do you know when that PPO expired?
It was to expire in June of 2020.
No further questions, Your Honor, for this witness.
Cross-examination.
Nothing from defense, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you there. You broke up.
No questions, Your Honor.
All righty, thank you. Any further witnesses for the people?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Motion.
Your Honor, the people would move for the court to bind over on count one. I do believe this is a question for the trier of fact. Detective Pillsbury testified that there was a PPO at the time and that it was not expired till 2022 June. Ms. Garbia testified that she was in a friendship and did have a good relationship with the defendant until he proposed, and then things started getting uncomfortable for her. She said that she felt threatened by his contact because it was constant, and that she asked him to stop numerous times, had also called the police and had told him over the phone and in writing, please stop contacting me, and he did not do so. So I would ask that the court to bind over, as the people have shown beyond probable cause that the crime was committed and this defendant committed it. Thank you.
Response.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't believe that the people have met their burden. Ms. Garbia testified that she had a relationship with Mr. Abu Hashim. It was a longstanding relationship, that he was a very kind person, that she used to send him her Uber location when she would arrive at home, that it wasn't until he proposed to her that the relationship changed, that in fact, she didn't initially tell him no. She told her mother and decided to take some time to think about it, and then ultimately decided that she did not wish to be in a relationship with him to that effect. She testified, so it wasn't, a clear-cut no initially. It seems that most of her communications with Mr. Abu Hashim, whether she internally felt a certain way or another, were confusing to him. She testified that sometimes she initiated contact with him after the period where she told him she didn't want him to contact her, but it would be to discuss other conversations. Sometimes they would talk on the phone for a long time, but those communications would be about other things that they had in common that were the basis of their friendship over the course of these years, that she's continued to maintain a relationship with him, even contemplated dating or attempted dating him even recently, and that she just, it became obsessive to her that he was still pushing at her to consider dating him, but she ultimately also led him on in a sense by maintaining an open door into that, even pursuing it as recently as 2022. I think there's some misunderstanding with respect to what Ms. Garbia was supposed to do relative to the involvement of law enforcement. She testified that she felt she would get in trouble if she didn't report any contact when law enforcement forbid him from contacting her, that she must report it or she would get in trouble. It's very clear she doesn't understand that that law enforcement are here to protect. She did admit that she may have exaggerated the events that occurred, but she was going to take very seriously the commands of law enforcement. For this to amount to a felony aggravated stalking, wherein an individual poses a credible threat to someone that causes the individual hearing or receiving the threat to reasonably fear for his or her safety, I don't think that's the case here. I think that we have two individuals who are involved in a relationship, who are still involved in some sort of relationship, whether it's a friendship or some other element. She's not indicated that any of the conduct he's engaged him has rose to the level of what an aggravated stalking would entail. I believe that the incident that we're narrowed down to from a window perspective is after he was served with the PPO. And I think the only information that she testified to with respect to his violation of a restraining order, which is one of the elements of an ag stalking, is maybe 3 emails that were sent to her. And that is all that I've heard her identify that occurred after the PPO is served and he had notice. As far as everything else, and even that's unclear, she was not able to narrow down a window of when these communications occurred. And so if the basis for the bindover is that he contacted her in violation of a restraining order, I don't think that the people have met their burden in establishing that, even by a probable cause standard. And I would best find this to be a violation of a PPO that could have been pursued in the domestic division of the circuit court. Maybe in the best case scenario, a misdemeanor stalking, which is pending out of the same set of facts at the 15th district court. But for a felony ag stalking, I don't think that the people have met their burden. And I would ask that you dismiss.
Response? Ms. Kirby?
Your Honor, unlike an aggravated injury, it's not something that rises to the level. It's either if he's under a court order and or a PPO. And in this case, he was served a PPO. He had knowledge of the receipt. Detective Pillsbury testified that she served it on him herself. She read the entire PPO to him. And he, as she stated, that he understood and he acknowledged receipt of that. I don't believe that Ms. Scarbia is, while she didn't say specific date ranges, she said he had called and emailed numerous times after she asked him to stop calling. And then he also called her after the PPO was already served. She also stated that it caused her to feel threatened. And so that's what we have to go on, because that's her testimony, and that she felt like it was continuous because he would call and email incessantly. And that's why she felt threatened. She also testified at the beginning that she recalled the time period of October of 2019. And she testified numerous times that before that time period, she did have a good relationship with him. It wasn't until the end of September, which she had called the police. So
What begins as a former friendship quickly turns into a courtroom battle over one critical question. When does persistent contact cross the legal line into criminal conduct? Today, prosecutors argue that repeated messages, phone calls, and continued communication after multiple requests to stop left the complainant feeling frightened and emotionally overwhelmed. The defense, however, maintains that this was a complicated relationship with mixed signals rather than a criminal act. Throughout this hearing, you'll hear detailed testimony about how the friendship evolved, why communication broke down, and whether the defendant ignored clear boundaries despite warnings from both the complainant and law enforcement. As the evidence unfolds, pay close attention to how each side interprets the same events in very different ways. By the end of this hearing, the judge must decide whether the prosecution has presented enough evidence for the case to move forward, not whether the defendant is guilty, but whether a trial is legally justified.
Issuance of the PPO, that there were these continuous calls as to why, or continuous contacts. And it's really the defendant that shouldn't be contacting her, quite frankly. Whether or not she reported it, why she reported it, maybe that's an issue that a jury needs to decide as to what she misunderstood. I don't know that she misunderstood. I took her statements more as an expression of respect for law enforcement that I would suspect she was taught to give. But while it's certainly a close case, given everything that I've heard, what is very clear is that she testified that she did feel threatened. She felt pressured and harassed, in essence, by his continual contact after the issuance of the PPO. So on those grounds, the court would find that the people have sustained their burden and would bind a defendant over to stand trial as charged on the aggravated stalking.
Your Honor, can I just make one correction for the record? He was served with the PPO on October 9th. That's what Detective Pillsbury said, and not.
Right. Oh, it was issued on, but.
This is the turning point of the entire hearing. At this stage, the focus shifts away from the history of the relationship and toward the legal standard the judge must apply. The prosecution argues that the defendant continued contacting the complainant even after a personal protection order had been served, pointing to testimony describing repeated communications and the emotional impact they allegedly caused. The defense responds that the relationship remained complicated, highlighting ongoing conversations and arguing that the evidence does not establish every element required for the charged offense. Remember, this is a preliminary examination, so the judge is not deciding guilt or innocence today. Instead, the only question is whether enough evidence exists for the case to proceed to trial. Based on everything you've heard so far, do you think the prosecution has met that threshold, or has the defense raised enough doubt to stop the case from moving forward?